Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of W Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Di pa W Eagle, galing hiding at gigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan.
Welcome to the Rundown, where we take you right into the action with the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down!
Fans, everyone who wants to hear about something sports related in another lazy afternoon. Here we are again, your Tailgate Tropa checking in, and so is ang ano pala kasi Tagalog.
Ayun!
Ang tight end ng bayan.
Teka lang kasi yung misis ng tight end ng bayan nandito din eh.
Hello.
Just in the nick of time. What's up, Coach? Alright, ano, game?
Coach H, kanina nagkukumustahan kami ni Steven. I was showing him a skill that I learned over the weekend. Taran! Taran!
Getting lined up, pwedeng kabuhayan yan.
Yeah. So speaking of which, sports fans tuning into us right now, siyempre nakasama na rin natin the people's tight end ng bayan, Coach Hammer, Martin Antonio.
I like that I like yung people's tight end So okay, I can maintain my hairline.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Looking clean.
Si Steven kasi pag tinanggal na yun, hanggang dito na eh.
Wala, guys. I have to keep the hat on because...
Gusto naman yan, di ba? Yung, ano yun? Yung mga Korean novela. A lot of people are watching Korean novelas now. So Steven, you're breathing another life to your very, very productive.
I can fit right in. Yeah, it's a new career path.
All right. So we're gonna start off with some news and headlines, some TMZ-worthy stories because...
Oh, gosh.
Steven, Coach H, one of our favorite All-Pro safeties had
Don't
the
get
safety
canceled.
had the safety button of a pistol pointed down at him, and see what I did there? Safety and safety. someone by the name of Earl Thomas got caught in the act daw of infidelity with a certain someone, and when the wife comes at you with a pistol, oh, it's bad. It is bad.
Yeah, he wasn't alone. He was with his brother too, apparently.
Oh my goodness, what is this? Coach H,
You know,
will Earl Thomas end up? I don't want to see him end up like an Antonio Brown though, but this is kind of serious, diba?
yeah.
It is very serious, but with times like that, I think we need another person's perspective, which is right here. Of course, 13 on the magazine, 1 on the panel. That's very, very scary. Especially it's the off season. A lot of people are doing a lot of dumb things when they're not doing what they love the most, which is football. So it's unexcusable. It's between husband and wife, but as Steven said, kasama niya yung kapatid niya on different rooms with a little bit of champagning and campaigning happening.
Really?
So I don't know what to say.
Me neither.
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Steven, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, 7-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, but I guess it's just not enough. He needs more than one. He needs more than one. So, it's scary because the Baltimore Ravens, they've experienced something like this before, a scary situation before. Of course, Steve McNair, he lost his life in an altercation like that with his mistress. She ended up shooting herself. And, there could have been a repeat situation of this. Yeah, that happened about 10 years ago. Steve McNair sadly lost his life to his mistress, who had a similar situation. She pulled a gun on him, and then she pulled the gun on herself. And, this was, again, he was with his brother. Apparently, the police report said it was around 4 a.m. when they got the call, and he was being chased around by his wife with a knife in her hand. So this could have ended very badly for Earl Thomas, who's still very much, in the prime of his career. So I guess the only thing we can look forward to is at least, no one was seriously injured. But I think obviously, like Coach said, Earl Thomas is very bored right now with his life. He doesn't have football to look forward to, so he's doing other things.
Actually, diba, this happened a couple of weeks ago pa.
Yeah.
And then he went, since everybody's a reporter right now, we went first strike on this. He went for the first kill. He admitted it that this would be happening. This would be coming out. Maybe TMZ got a hold of the situation, the police report. We don't know. Pero inunahan na niya. So at least that saves some face for him.
Yeah.
All right. And, enough with the gory news. Enough with the troubling news. How about this? Philip Rivers, okay, he's now in Indianapolis, pero he's ready for his post-retirement career as a Kyle Chandler, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts high school football coach.
Friday Night Lights, Texas Forever. I love that show.
Do you see Philip Rivers coaching high school football the way he would, boss around LaDainian Tomlinson, Vincent Jackson? This is okay. He has something in the works, right?
Yeah, maybe you could say it could be a bad thing. It looks like maybe he has 1 foot already out the door. He's entering his 17th season, but he did say in a recent interview, he had 2 dreams growing up. One was to play in the NFL, and the other one was actually to be a high school football coach, just like his dad. So, he's excited to possibly, transition from the NFL and then, of course, maybe into a coaching career. But, I mean, he should be focused right now on this season, because he's joining an Indianapolis Colts team that has a really good offensive line. They have a really good running game that's going to be anchored now by Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor, which was one of our favorite running back prospects coming
Michael
out.
Pittman, Jonathan Taylor.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Michael Pittman. He now has Michael Pittman to throw to, a great defense that's going to be joined now by DeForest Buckner from the 49ers. So, and the one thing though that kind of hangs on his resume, he's never played in a Super Bowl in 17 years. So maybe
imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know why he's looking ahead. He still has, a lot to look forward to.
It's very simple. He has double-digit number of kids. He needs more kids to shout at. So that's what he wants. So it's the natural progression of being a quarterback. Most of the coaches are either a defensive back or a quarterback. Basically, that's that. They are guys who really are into the scheme. And Philip Rivers, with his temperament, he is a perfect fit for high school coaching. I'm telling you, I had played with a guy who has the same temperament as Philip Rivers. Our quarterback is the same kind of guy, and he loves to coach. If that's something that would rock his boat, might as well, right? And Lilian has been really popping out talents on the daily high school football. So when he gets an opportunity for him to really spread his wings and be a better at his craft, why not?
Yeah. And all I can say is, go ahead, Steven. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, no, I agree. You know, quarterbacks, defensive backs, they're one of the more cerebral players on the field. So definitely an easier transition for them to be coaches. And it is kind of cool. I think you mentioned it here in our outline. Brady and Rivers, they're going to be the 5th and 6th quarterbacks in NFL history to start for new teams after previously winning 100 plus starts for another franchise. But again, I mean, Brady is in a different stratosphere. He's got 3 MVPs, 6 Super Bowls, but again, Rivers has never played in a Super Bowl yet. So,
well, I think maybe I can say is Philip Rivers is the real life cheaper by the dozen family man. So props to you, Philip Rivers. All right, some more fun news for us. Now, Mother's Day just passed. So again, happy Mother's Day to all of our moms and
that's right.
Mrs.
Happy Mother's Day
over here. Happy Mother's Day to your wife. And
Happy Mother's Day, though.
Yes, Happy Mother's Day.
All right. Here's the puzzling thing, though. Tua Tagovailoa uses his check to buy a Cadillac for his mom. Meanwhile, Patrick Queen, the rookie for the Baltimore Ravens, buys a Range Rover for his mom. Guys, buy your mom a minivan. They're not gonna be pumping and, putting on the wheels and the spinners on a Range Rover. She's a mom. She needs a minivan, right? That's my only thing about it.
How dare you? How dare you put them on a stereotype like a minivan? He might have gotten them a smaller SUV, a mid-size SUV, a Range Rover is a good one. The new Benz, the SUV that The Rock was rocking at Ballers, that's a good one.
Okay.
Couldn't they just get them like a Tesla? Something with good gas mileage.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Again, Mother's Day was just a couple days ago. And for a lot of these players, their moms and their dads make huge sacrifices to make it possible for them to be in the situation where they're in the NFL. So I have no problem with it. I think maybe it's safer to do this, though, on your second contract, maybe not your rookie contract, because like Tua, apparently he just signed a 4-year contract worth $30 million. But I don't think these players get to see, that whole amount. There's a lot of things they have to pay for. So it's cool. I mean, happy Mother's Day. I think it's safe to say we all love our moms so much, and we would do the same. But Sports Illustrated, reported that around 78% of NFL players end up broke or under financial stress after they retire. So just something to think about, something to think about.
The mortgages, the agent fees, the taxes that they would pay, they'll be taking home around 60% of that paycheck. If you're doing the math, that's 18 million for you. So 40% of those goes to a lot of other things that they would be paying for after signing the contract. So most probably,
don't forget your baby mamas.
The small token that they give their moms and their dads. But at the end of the day, you buy the house on the second contract. You buy first.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, probably they haven't watched too much of Ballers to know the lifestyle. But anyway, but yeah. All right. For us, biggest news so far, and of course, it is the biggest news after all right now in the NFL. Finally, we have a concrete NFL 2020 schedule out and about. So. All right, the NFL's operating like, okay, parang we're full systems go. We're gonna test it out for the first week of the season, and then we have some fail-safe moves. If depends on the fallout of week 1, we might cancel games here and there or postpone games, right? But shouldn't this be, Coach H? Parang shouldn't the NFL also take into account na training camp pa lang before teams reopen their facilities? strict testing should be there. Parang anyone who goes in and out of the facility has to be tested. Kasi football is the ultimate contact sport. You're wrestling, there's blood, there's saliva, there's everything, diba? That's something that they should look out for.
Well, again, it's safety, always a safety precaution. If they can assure their players they would be safe, they won't be conducting the season. It's as simple as that. But of course, these players, these are their livelihood. That's what they do to feed their families, and that's what they're thinking. Not everyone is secured with a big contract. Not everyone, as you were talking about Tua and Patrick Queen, some of these rookies want to prove themselves right away so they can secure the bag. And it's always like that. And the NFL wants to dominate the news. They're the only sporting events, sans the UFC over the weekend, sans golf, and even the golf exhibition with Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady going up against Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning. So those two things are happening, and the NFL has been dominating the news cycle right now, and that's what they want to do. If you observe the schedules, they have weeks that are left for the adjustments. That's one thing that they did, and they're very flexible on the playoffs. So we shall see. Yeah. Of course, it's always about the safety of the players. It's the players' union that is very adamant about testing, retesting, and all those things. And of course, there would be no crowd. There would be a lot of adjustments for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Going off what Coach said, I think Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's been consulting the NFL on how they're going to move forward, I think a quote from him really speaks on how they're going to handle it. He said, "The virus will make the decision for us. It's really considering how far along we are in a couple months, whether we have things contained, whether a vaccine is out. But I'm sure they have a lot of contingency plans, whether it's going to be a shortened season, whether they might play in stadiums with, 1/3 capacity or maybe no one at all. They really have to, listen to what's happening, how the virus and how we're able to contain it." And he was even asked the question, even with someone like Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, if he tests positive during the season, Fossey replied, he said, it would be malpractice in medicine to put him on the field. So, it's really about, like what Coach said, it's really about the safety of the players.
Safety first, always. Especially, you just never know. Parang, even if you just conduct testing, parang, okay, let's do it twice a week. What's the assurance that all the games in between, players aren't going to be infected? Diba? Parang it should be around the clock measures.
Because once you get one player that tests positive, let's say one player tests positive, now you have to root out okay, all the players that guy was in close contact with. If he played in a game, now all the players from the opposing team have to either be quarantined and tested. So it's really tricky. It's going to be really tricky. So
right. All right. Yeah. So we'll wait and see about how the NFL will adjust to the coronavirus situation. But all right, it's time now for the fun part. We got the games, and we're gonna be previewing some of the selected best games that we are gonna wait and see for the season to happen. So Steven, we gotta go big time. Kickoff pa lang. Week 1, our kickoff game. It's the rematch. Houston Texans versus the Kansas City Chiefs. How just a year away, 24-0. Deshaun Watson, they had it in the bag.
Right where they wanted them.
Patrick Mahomes happens. Will this be the time that Deshaun Watson, gets something, gets a little bit of a payback on Pat Mahomes?
Nope.
Right. What's your take on it?
Yeah, like you said, Kansas City exploded for 41 unanswered points. Again, 41 unanswered points after being up 24-0. Kansas City pretty much has the same roster going into the season. The Texans lost Hopkins. J.J. Watt is another year older. They have no Jadeveon Clowney. I think this just might be a repeat. If anything, I don't think the Texans will be able to score more than 3 or 4 touchdowns on the Chiefs this year, especially in the opener.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Coach H, your take.
Do not doubt Andy Reid and those boys. Have you seen the speed of that team? Have you seen the speed of that team? Did you see what they did in the Super Bowl? It's as simple as this. They doubled down, getting a running back from LSU. They have more weapons right now. They are they're a year stronger, winning a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is on a contract year. Remember that? He is up for an extension. Of course, he wants to prove something. He wants to go back-to-back this year. And everybody in front of them should be very, very adamant on putting their best foot forward against this squad.
So it's safe to say we're picking Kansas City over Houston, week 1, kickoff game.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that.
Unanimous decision. Week 1 also, Steven, this is near and dear to our hearts because our very own San Francisco Niners, I think we are in the toughest division in football because we are going up against Arizona, who is debuting D-Hop. And we got a matchup on our hands.
Yeah, if I could go first, I think this might be a scary matchup for the 49ers because the Arizona Cardinals have been trending up since last season. You know, they got better players. It's another year under that system. Kyler Murray is a scary player. And I think the one thing about the San Francisco defense last year is they struggled with mobile quarterbacks. They struggled against Lamar Jackson. They struggled against Kyler Murray. And they struggled against Jared Goff, especially in that last Rams game. Even though they won the game, they started using a lot of bootlegs to get away from the pass rush, and it was very successful until they adjusted in the second half. And like you said, they have DeAndre Hopkins, another weapon for Kyler Murray. So, and let's not forget, Larry Fitzgerald is still there. So it's going to be a tough matchup, you know, especially if they don't come out the gates firing. They could be looking at 0-1 going into week 2.
That is so tough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about the defense of the Cardinals. I like Isaiah Simmons. I want to see how the hybrid guys, the linebacker / strong safety guys that can play all over the place, can counter the things that I love the most, the tight ends. George Kittle is the #1 tight end. So this is what they're hypothesizing. Guys who are joker linebackers that can cover tight ends, can cover in space, can tackle and all those things. I'm very excited on that one. And of course, I want to see Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel just punishing people with runs after the catch.
City.
Yak City.
Come on, man. You know, Kyle Juszczyk, Deebo Samuel, then Mostert and all those guys. It's Yak City, as you said.
Yeah, and this could be an important game unless it could show if they're ready to get back in the Super Bowl or if they're still kind of hungover from that loss to Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah, we should also see how conditioned Trent Williams is. Because that's
a good
part
point.
of their offense. Joe Staley just retired. Trent Williams will be plugging in. This is a contract year again for him. So we shall see if he would be playing up to his name.
Right. And, you know, as a former DB, I'm looking out for the matchup between Richard Sherman, the loudest mouth among DBs, and DeAndre Hopkins, the best hands among wide receivers. So it's who wins over here, hands versus mouth? Well, we're about to watch that. So
yeah, that's going to be a good matchup because the 49ers didn't really address the secondary. They didn't draft any cornerbacks. I don't think they drafted any safety. So whoever played last season is pretty much going to be in there this season. So we'll see.
All right. So the weekend just couldn't end because Monday night in week 3, oh no, Coach H, Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, 2 previous NFL MVPs playing against one another, primetime television. Think about that.
Well, you have the better offensive line with the Kansas City Chiefs. Marshall Yanda retiring for Lamar Jackson. A lot of their runs, designed runs for Lamar Jackson, if you look at it, it's in between the tackles. Some bootlegs, but most of the designed runs, it's in between the tackles. They got the new running back. They have guys who can run. They have big receivers. They're one of the few teams that run double tight end sets. So we'll see if they could find that sweet spot for Baltimore because their defense is so stacked this year. I mean, it's stacked with Patrick McQueen plugging in. So we shall see if they have the legs and the speed to cover. Again, we can't stress it enough. It's all about speed in today's game.
Right.
Yeah,
Steven,
I think going into the draft, the Ravens particularly, they had no weaknesses on their team. The only weakness you could maybe point out is maybe at wide receiver. You'd probably use a couple more good bodies there. But this could possibly be like an AFC championship preview. These are 2 of the top 3 teams in the NFL, and we're getting it in week 3. the NFL really knows how to schedule these games. This
They
is
do.
Monday night, so everybody's going to be watching. Like Coach said, they strengthened up the linebacking core. Patrick Queen basically fell to them in the draft. They picked up J.K. Dobbins in the run game for to even strengthen a huge strength for them. These are. Let's not confuse ourselves. This is a run-first team, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Mark Ingram. They run the ball, and then they pass if they have to. So in week 3, this could be like one of those jumpstart games that just gets the season going. It's going to be – I'm excited for this.
Yeah,
Monday night. Oof.
Could this be a preview of the AFC Championship in 2020?
Might be.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Diba? It
Definitely.
could be.
And
Right.
another wrinkle, they're shuffling the broadcast team of the Monday Night Football games.
Oh yeah, they
We'll
did.
see.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, no more what's his name? Booger McFarland. One of these two teams is going to win, and one of these teams is going to lose. I predict that. Those funny memes. The
We
team
didn't-
with
we-
more points at the end of 60 minutes, I predict, will be the winner of this game.
We didn't see that coming. So
Oh my God. What a take. What a take.
fast forward week 7. Thank you for Thanksgiving Day, because it's going to be, of course, one of our favorite all-time rivalries, Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. But this will be the first time that Big Ben will ever face Lamar Jackson. Because when Lamar
that's
Jackson
right.
when Lamar Jackson took over as the starter in Baltimore at 2018, the Ravens already played the Steelers twice. So Lamar Jackson, again, he's coming off his MVP year, and Big Ben's coming off a summer where he drank six pack of beer and froze it a bit. And that's his off-season conditioning
Yeah.
program.
Lifting beers, doing a lot of lifting, heavy lifting.
I don't know, Steven, you excited for this?
I'm excited. I think the spotlight is more going to be on Pittsburgh, because I think we know what the Ravens are going to be. This is week 7, so both teams are going to be in midseason form. But I think the question is on the Steelers. Like you said, it's on Big Ben, because a lot of reports have come out. Big Ben is not a workout warrior. He's not a guy that's going to be grinding in the offseason. He's 38, and he got injured early last season. He shut it down after the elbow surgery. And this is a Steelers offense that is second to last in passing, fourth to last in rushing offense, according to Pro Football Reference. So, I mean, what are we looking forward to here? I know the Steelers are a storied franchise. The defense is solid, but you got to put up some points. If you want to beat the Ravens, you got to put up some points, and I think that's going to be tough for them. Who knows? Big Ben might not even be playing by week 7. He might be injured.
Again.
Yeah, again. So,
Well, during the draft, I wanted them to get Jalen Hurts. I wanted Pittsburgh to get Jalen Hurts. It's like the ultimate Pittsburgh Steeler player. Simple as that. But, of course, Big Ben has been there, won Super Bowls with the franchise. At the end of the day, as we said, Baltimore is a run-first team. This would be on the shoulders of Devin Bush and Minka Fitzpatrick. How do they cover those guys?
Right.
How do they cover that run game? How do they cover Mark Andrews and all of those bad boys? What's his name? The Oklahoma wide receiver, Hollywood Brown.
yeah.
That guy. I mean, it's a run-first team, but remember, Lamar Jackson had a couple of perfect passing rating games last season. I think 3 or 4 games he had a perfect passer rating against some of the best defenses in the NFL. So that would be one of those things that we would be looking into, especially we're saying that they are in mid-season.
Right.
Yeah, now that Coach mentions it, instead of taking Jalen Hurts, I actually think it would have been a great landing spot for Jordan Love. Of course, if the Packers didn't.
Oh,
take
yeah.
him. Yeah. Big quarterback, big arm, could, stay a year or two after Big Ben. I think that would have been the better landing spot rather than sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be there for the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, we haven't talked about that enough. So anyway, Thanksgiving continues again with, this one, Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers versus the New England Patriots and Brian Hoyer and Jared Stidham. I bet Jimmy Garoppolo was like, hey, Bill, you wanted me back here? But who do you got there with you, Bill?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are trying to make a story about this. But, I mean, even if you say, Jimmy Garoppolo was traded from the Patriots to the 49ers, he only started 2 games for the Patriots in his 2 to 3 seasons there. You know, Brady isn't there anymore, and I think the Patriots are kind of a shell of the team that they used to be. A lot of experts are predicting them to win maybe 6 or 5 games next season. And also the Patriots have a lot of tough games on their schedule. They play the Ravens, the 49ers, they play the Seahawks, Texans, Cardinals.
I think they have the third hardest schedule. Third or second hardest schedule.
Yeah, they have one of the toughest schedules. Mm-hmm. And again, there's no more Brady. I think you guys have mentioned it. They don't have the weapons that they used to have before. They have Edelman, but who else? You know what I mean?
No kind of annoy. No big boys on that defense. No.
Yeah.
The DBs are on the men. I mean, it's a totally different team.
Yep.
I think the NFL they're trying to make a story about it, but there's not really much of a story. Jimmy G's coming back, but he was never really a starter for the Patriots because Brady was there. So hopefully, you know, it's just going to be an easy win for the 49ers. It's the first time they've traveled to Foxborough in a long time.
Yeah, it has been quite a while. All right, so going in 2 weeks later, week 9, can you imagine just how pissed Aaron Rodgers would be by week 9? I got Jordan Love clinging on my back, and I gotta face the Niners again, who blasted me 37-20 in the NFC Championship game. Just how pissed Aaron Rodgers would be.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough also for the 49ers too, because this is a stretch of games where they play. Before this game, they travel to Seattle, play the Packers at home, and then they have to travel again to New Orleans like they did last season. So this is going to be tough also on the 49ers. There's a possibility that they go 0-3, maybe 1-2 during this stretch. But for the Green Bay Packers, yeah, you know, they lost the 49ers last season in the NFC Championship. But we'll see. It could be a different story this time around.
Well, if Aaron Rodgers is going to get pissed, he should be pissed on his offensive line. He was on his back. He was scrambling every single time. He should be pissed at his offensive line coach. That's number 1. Number 2, he needs to get somebody involved on that receiving core, not named Devontae Adams. I mean, they don't have enough weapons. They don't have any tight ends that they can trust right now. It's a tall order for them. They might be mathematically eliminated by that time. You never know.
Well, again, remember this time, Steven, last year when the Niners had to go through the gauntlet, and that was their make or break period.
Yeah,
like that's right. When the character of the team was tested and they survived.
Yeah, that was tough. They played the Packers, they played the Ravens, and they played the Saints. And they went 2-1. That was a big turning point of the season. They almost beat the Ravens. It was a last-minute field goal by the Ravens, but they could have won that game. They really helped Lamar Jackson to, you know, very unlike Lamar Jackson numbers. And then, of course, they beat the Saints in a shootout, 48-46. So this could be another part of this season where
that's what I'm thinking.
It could be a turning point. It could be a momentum, you know, grabber for them.
Yep. All right, so going now into week 11. Revenge is mine, says Lamar Jackson, because he's facing the Tennessee Titans, who shocked the whole football world with their win over the Ravens, divisional round. So, I know, Coach H, kaya na ba? Lamar Jackson's gonna explode in this game.
Thanks. Well, Lamar Jackson, he's a run first QB. The Baltimore Ravens are favorites on this football game, but if there's one thing that Mike Vrabel does and does best, it's setting that edge, containing that run, and backing that front seven. He knows how to push Lamar Jackson to be a pocket passer. Now it's about their receivers. It's about those tight ends. It's about getting that intermediate game going. But the running game, they neutralized it. Watch again how they contained Lamar Jackson. If they can set that edge again, if Jarrell Casey, who is now out from Tennessee Titans again, with the guys who are going to be plugged in on that position, and they can contain that box, that would be very, very difficult for Baltimore.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like Coach said, you know, they were able to game plan for them, and no one saw this coming. I remember when Anthony and I were doing the predictions last season, this was a game where, like, there's no way the Titans are winning this. But they got the 28-12 victory. Like Coach said, you have to contain Lamar Jackson. But even you look at the stat line from that game, Lamar had 365 yards passing, 20 carries for 143 yards. But they started to do what most teams have to do. They made him a passer, and he threw 2 interceptions. He lost 1 fumble, and of course, it doesn't hurt when Derrick Henry runs for 30 times with 195 yards. So
that's gonna hurt, Steven. That hurts.
Yeah.
When Derrick
I think
runs.
like what coach is saying, you kind of have to game plan where you have to beat the Ravens almost how they beat everyone else. You have to run it first and throw it when you need to. When they start cheating up and start lining up in the box, that's when you start getting those short passes, start opening up the play for them, for other players. So I just don't think the Ravens are going to be fooled twice, though. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I don't think they're going to...
Bigger question. For the two of you, who would you rather try to tackle? Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry to save your life?
Yes, that was $1 million question. Someone said for $1 million, $1 million or to save your life, would you have to tackle Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson? I would take my chances with Lamar Jackson.
Me too.
At least I won't die. At least I won't die from the contact.
But Coach Age is 6'5", 240 at least. So at least
I am not putting myself in front of Derrick Henry. Did you see that guy run?
He loves the contact. He loves
Alabama choo-choo.
Looks for the contact.
Exactly, man. He reminds me of the Larry Sonkas, that brand of running back in the 70s, the Punisher.
Jerome Bettis.
Yep.
Big, compact, big, and he would
mow the lawn.
The thing about Henry too, he's fast. Yeah, a lot of backs are big, and they can take you down. But even if you don't tackle him, he can just run past you.
Yep.
He's not a slow guy.
And well, that's it for the running backs. But just a week later, week 12, how about this, Coach 8? The best QB at present, arguably, versus probably the GOAT of QB pass, Chiefs versus Bucks, Pat Mahomes versus the great Tom Brady in a different jersey. I mean, we should. This is a game we should be quite looking out for, diba?
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have retooled on defense. Of course, Ndamukong Suh would be there on his second year. Devin White, who is healthy finally, would be playing. They have their new set of corners. It's very, very important on how they set that tone on the defensive side. Tom Brady would be Tom Brady. He would be managing the game. He would be attacking with Mike Evans, with Marcus Goodwin, and of course, Rob Gronkowski and whoever other tight end is there. So they would be running a lot of 2 tight end sets. But of course, this is where my homie's at. It's an Andy Reid against Bruce Arians, 2 of the brightest offensive coaches. We shall see a lot of fireworks. But first, I'll be riding with Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay it is.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, like you said, Anthony, past legend versus a future legend. Mahomes is going to be turning 25 into this season. So we could be talking about him as the face of the NFL for the next 10 to 12 years.
Right.
If Mahomes even gets any better, I mean, he's in the prime, maybe not even in the prime yet. It's so scary. But another thing is this is going to be a Week 12 matchup. So both of these teams could be needing victories, for playoff positioning. So it's really interesting to see where they're both going to be come Week 12. But I'm also going to ride with Tampa Bay. I think they're going to be playing in Tampa Bay. I think by then, especially in Week 12, Tom Brady and that offense will have it figured out. Hopefully they'll be, chugging at full speed. Right. And I think, them being at home, it'll be a close game. But I think the Bucks can pull it out.
And come to think of it, the NFC South is loaded with top caliber quarterback play. Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Who do you got else? Teddy Bridgewater is no slouch, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a pretty darn competitive division over there.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of quarterbacks, still on it, Week 13, we talked about Mahomes and Brady. How about this? Bengals versus Dolphins. Are we going to see a Bama LSU rematch between Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa at Week 13? Remember, Tua again is coming off an injury, but by Week 13, can he steal some playing time away from the Harvard beard, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Steven?
Well, like you said, it's Burrow versus Tua. but we don't know. Maybe Tua might still be on the bench at this time, especially, he's still dealing with the injury concerns. They might want to take things slow with him, but who knows? He might get in there. It's week 13. But another question might be, will Burrow still be standing up? He's going to be facing a lot of good pass rushers in the NFC North. But these are two teams that are bottom feeders. They have been for the past couple of years. I did a little math. Over the past 5 seasons, Miami averages 6.8 wins. Cincinnati averages 6.6 wins. So who knows? Nearing the end of the season, they might just be saving it up, maybe even tanking for better draft position the following season. But I would love to see that, Joe Burrow versus Tua. But we don't know yet. We really don't know if they're going to be even playing by that time.
All right. Fair enough. I mean,
maybe next time. Not this year. I want Tua to be fully healthy. I am a believer in Tua Tagovailoa. He is a winner. He's a tough kid, and hopefully he is healthy. And you have Ryan Fitzpatrick there. I mean, if anything, if the floor of Joe Burrow is Ryan Fitzpatrick and the moxie and the gunslinger attitude is there, might as well watch that. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
All right. And last on our list, Steven, week 15. Prepare the fireworks, ladies and gentlemen, in the Bayou, because Kansas City is going against New Orleans. Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Light it up. Pat Mahomes versus Drew Brees.
This is going to be a good one. This could be a Super Bowl preview, possibly. The Chiefs traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Again, this is week 15. So we could be looking at a game that has playoff implications, or it could be a game where both teams are resting their starters. We'll have to find out. But hopefully, it's going to be a meaningful game. I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't think we've seen Mahomes versus Brees. So this is another one of those marquee matchups. It's going to be, oh man, I'm excited. I just keeping my fingers crossed that this game is actually going to mean something come week 15.
Exact same thing. I mean, if it has playoff implications, it would be a very good game. But of course, the Saints have been there. The past 3 years, they have been in the thick of things. But it's the officiating that's been killing them the past 2 years. We shall see if they can get over the hump they have. They have the squad that can win it also. Hopefully, it means something. So for us fans. But at the end of the day, I want to see them in the playoffs, and I want to see them get to that number.
I don't even know what pass interference is anymore. Over the past two or three seasons, I really don't know what it means anymore.
Can you imagine Drew Brees just punishing himself? Oh, Minnesota Miracle. Oh, the missed tackle. Oh, LA Rams, Nikhil Roby-Coleman. Oh, last year versus the Vikings. What the hell is going on with my career? Like this should be the time where, I would be getting my second ring, but, well, that's Drew Brees for you, still sticking with it at 41. So, props to him. Now, Steven, since Coach H loves Tampa Bay so much, get this. Last year, Buccaneers had one primetime game. This year, they have five primetime games. Is Roger Goodell behind this Tom Brady standoff?
Of course. You have the best storyline this year. Tom Brady, the face of the NFL, moves to a different location. He has been controlling the narrative since time immemorial, since the Talk Crew was instituted, since the Tailgate and all those things. Of course, he loves controversy. It sells the TV12 method. Right. And now everybody's buying it. First, you want your product. Before it being a sport, it's a business. Everybody wants to talk about something. They want to put it on wax. They want to put it front and center. Sa lahat ng tao, to everyone. They want to see all the controversy. But Tom Brady on TV. Simple as that.
Yep.
And not only that, week 1, first game of the season for both teams, and they're going to be playing each other. This could possibly, if we're looking forward again, possibly a preview of the NFC Championship. You have the Saints, like you said, have always been there, been unlucky with some bad officiating, bad calls, bad plays here and there. And of course, Tampa Bay, the hype is going to be so high for them this season. So again, Roger Goodell, the NFL teams, the NFL organizations planning this out perfectly, right out of the gates. Tampa Bay, New Orleans is going to be exciting.
What's gonna be? I'm gonna give you because we already talked about the Kansas City versus Tampa Bay matchup, but here are the remaining primetime games for the Buccaneers. I want you to pick the game that you would really pay top dollar to see. Week 1, it's Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. And we're gonna see that twice, right? We're gonna see that twice. Week 6, Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. Green Bay at Tampa Bay. And week 15, Tom Brady going against Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and the Atlanta Falcons. Which of those games would you guys want to see?
I'll go first.
Go.
I'll go first. I like to see him beat up Atlanta again. Just for the heck of it. Just for the heck of it, to give them the nightmares. Everybody would be excited for the first game of the season, of course. Understandably. But it's not the best Tom Brady that you would see. It's not the best Tampa Bay that you would see. I want to see them on week 15 with Julio Jones and company, with Dan Quinn right there, trying to exorcise if it's really Tom Brady or Bill Belichick that beat them.
Good call.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Packers game. I think this game, it's going to be week 6. They're going to be playing in Tampa Bay. I'm more looking at it from the Packers point of view because this is week 6. If Aaron Rodgers comes out of the gates slow and he's not playing well, you might start hearing rumors that maybe they want to put in Jordan Love. You might start hearing some trade rumors. We know Aaron Rodgers always seems to play with a chip on his shoulder ever since, the 49ers passed on him back in 2005. They took Alex Smith. This is a guy that's going to have the hugest chip. That's not even a word. The biggest chip on his shoulder right now. It's going to be exciting to see what kind of Aaron Rodgers we're going to see. And that's in week 6. So, he has a couple weeks under his belt. We're going to see, it depends on how he's playing, when they come into Tampa Bay in that week 6 matchup.
Right. Okay. And I'm sure Kyle Shanahan would be tuning into the week 15 Tampa Bay Atlanta Falcons game again.
Can you also remind your coach to call a timeout whenever the offense of the other team is trying to make a run, please?
Yeah. Don't remind us.
Super Bowl again, 28-3. That's what happens to you.
Just run the ball. Stop being so cute.
All right, before we wind things down, let's just go through some free agency moves and rumors. So I guess that wraps up our NFL, the games that we're marking down on our calendar. So how about this? It seems that Jadeveon Clowney is more and more likely to sign back with the Seattle Seahawks since he says he's recovered from surgery, right, Coach H? Given the coronavirus situation, no team is going to conduct his physical as better than the Seahawks would. They're the team that has closest contact right now with Jadeveon Clowney. If there is any other team interested in him, diba?
He went through a procedure. I am rehabbing an injury for the past few months, and then the coronavirus kicked in. It's simple as that. You're working with your team. They know your kinks. They know your injury history, so on and so forth. But he wanted the bigger contract. The money's drying up, taking a whole lot of time. He had offers, I think, from Tennessee and Seattle. So we shall see if he would wind up again with Seattle. But of course, sabi mo, if you want to rehab, you want to stay with the same squad. Me, hypothesizing, I think he would sign a 1-year deal and try again next year.
Okay.
About the value that he has on the free market.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like going off what Coach said, I think the best idea for him would be to re-sign with the team for 1 year, prove it, and then get your money. Because there was reports coming out that he wants to make upwards of $18, $20 million a year. That's like Aaron Donald money. Those are players that are, game wreckers. They get tons of sacks. Jadeveon Clowney last year only had 3 sacks. And I know you can say so much about numbers, and the system he plays in. This is a guy that wants money of players that, get 10, 15, 20 sacks a season, and he only had 3. So, he wants this type of money, but he's only putting up these type of stats. So it doesn't make sense. I think like what Coach said works perfectly. Sign a 1-year deal, prove yourself, and then you can get that bag.
Right. And going off what you guys said, speaking of proving himself yet again, is the reason why Dak Prescott's contract is still sort of unfixed in Dallas is because parang, I don't know, the offseason kind of shows his immaturity, inviting people to his house for, a party during quarantine. I mean, Jerry Jones is kind of unsure of whether, hey, is Dak really my guy, right? Parang he doesn't know whether, I mean, Andy Dalton's there, so at least we got security, but Dak, I don't know, I don't know how to fix his contract situation in Dallas, right?
He is not their guy.
Right.
He is not their guy. Because if he was, he would have been locked in the moment that he was up for an extension. Simple as that. They don't see themselves competing for a prolonged period of time with Dak Prescott. It's simple as that. They think there are other guys out there, might be on the collegiate level or might be Aaron Rodgers, who knows, who would be in the market. But Dak Prescott isn't their guy.
Right. Yep.
I disagree. I think they're really just arguing over the numbers. There's reports that Dak Prescott wants a shorter contract. He wants a 4-year deal. Apparently, the deal that they have in play is a 5-year deal. It's just really, I think, they just don't want to give. We know Jerry Jones is very hard-headed. He wants things to go his way. And I think Dak is also, trying to play hardball. And I think in this situation, Dak should sign a deal. It's not good to put this up, for play, because one injury, the deal is completely over. The NFL game is very dangerous. I think as much as possible, you want to guarantee yourself some safety. The longer this goes on, the more at risk. The player that's more at risk here is Dak Prescott rather than the Dallas Cowboys. Especially now with Andy Dalton on the team, they already have their safety net.
Right. So I think the winner of this quarterback race between Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott will eventually get to play Yahtzee in Jerry Jones's boat. So that's the ultimate prize over here. So everyone wins at the end of the day, Dallas. Woohoo! Yeah. You got a billionaire owner. All right. We got a few minutes left. Any topics you still want to shoot out there, Steven, before we end our football talk for the afternoon, Coach H?
Well, I know you guys are big basketball guys. You guys been watching The Last Dance. What did you guys think of episodes 7 and 8?
Man, the most iconic comeback you can ever think of. Enough with Jordan had some, the issues connected to his gambling and whatnot. You know what? Yeah. Forget about it. Everyone has their own opinion about it. But what's more important is how he came back from swinging a bat for 1.5 years and still managed to drop 55 on John Starks' head and end his career with a free-peat. Come on. No one does that. No one does that. Only MJ.
I think it really solidifies the GOAT status. A lot of the younger fans, they maybe didn't catch Michael. Me personally, I only got to watch the latter part of his career. It really kind of shows you just how different Michael was. The quotes were like, he said, I just wanted people that wanted to win, and if you couldn't take that, I didn't want to play with you. So it's just such a different mindset to the NBA of today where, it seems like the NBA players, and I'm not trying to be, too critical. It's not like players nowadays, they don't hate each other. There's no real bad blood. Back in Michael's time, even until now, he said like he doesn't really like Isaiah Thomas. He still has bad blood with Charles Barkley. So he took this game so serious into a different level, and it's scary. It's almost scary to watch how serious he took it.
It is.
And it gives an opportunity for us. I watched the final repeat of his career. I was starting playing basketball back then, and it gives you a clear view on where Kobe got the Mamba mentality. They're the only two guys. They're the only two guys.
Yeah.
Who talking, and you feel emotion from him when he's either talking about family or talking about the way that he lives his life, the way that he approaches competing. Those are the two things that really elicit emotion from Michael Jordan.
Right.
He was pride when he actually was talking about the way that he was perceived by his teammates. And of course, I love the story. I love the story about Scotty Burrell. Scotty Burrell played as an import here. I was in college and I got to talk to him. I asked him, because I read the book, was it true that in the playoffs, you were getting your ankle treated on a sprained ankle. I was 17 or 18 back then. Was playing as an import here. We shared the same trainer. I asked him, is it true? Did he really flip the trainer's table that you were relying on because he just came from a 48-minute game without no subs, and he was on the practice floor trying to get better in the playoffs? And of course, he said yes.
Wow. Oh,
dude,
my
nagpapatid. He got a sprained ankle. Michael Jordan goes to the training room, flips the table that he was lying onto. I think I wasn't in college back then. I think I was in 3rd year or 4th year high school. He was training with Kurt Collier. And I was also training. Of course, I'm the guy who would always ask questions. I'm the young guy. I'm the annoying guy. That's why I'm doing TV now. So I asked him that. I mean, nahiga daw siya dun sa trainer's table, nagpapatape, nagpapayano ng angkin. Dumating yung Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan comes in, drops the most F-bombs that he ever heard about himself in his life because he was getting an ankle treatment after the guy almost passes out playing more than 40 minutes in a playoff game. That's how much about the game. Simple as
different breed.
Right.
Totally different. I mean, of course, you love Kobe. I love Kobe. But totally crazy, maniacal guys that really committed to living their lives at the most excellent way possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kobe is probably the closest thing we've had to MJ.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to a podcast with Iman Shumpert, and I don't know if you guys heard the funny story where I think he was still with the Knicks, and they were playing Kobe Bryant at Madison Square Garden. And Kobe was having an off game. Shumpert had a couple steals off of him, and Kobe comes up to him and he goes, "Hey, young fella, you had a great game." But it's the start. It's the start of the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is starting, and he goes up to me. He's like, "Yeah, you had a really good game." And Shumpert's like looking up at the clock, and he's like, "It's the start of the fourth quarter." And Kobe just turns it on, and he just starts going off on Shumpert. And it's like, there's almost like a game within a game for these guys. You say one thing, you do one thing to them, they just turn it on.
Right.
And especially with Michael, it's like you give him one little thing, one little slight, and he makes it so personal. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go after this guy. I'm gonna make him regret that he ever played this game. And it's crazy to watch. Like, you watch MJ and how he took it so personal. It's really just someone 100% dedicated to the craft. And I can't even imagine what it was like to play with him. Also, I think another thing, one of my favorite players of all time, Steve Kerr, got into a fist fight with Michael Jordan. And Black eye, yeah. But because of that, MJ said, after that, I really respected him. There was mutual respect because this guy, Steve Kerr, also was a competitor. And he said, I wasn't going to back down. So
Right.
I'm excited. Our last 2 episodes coming out, right? This Monday.
Yep. Actually, Steven, Coach H, after this episode of ours, after our football talk, my pre-recorded episode with one of my friends from the Ateneo Lady Eagles basketball team, we're gonna be breaking down the episode 7 and 8 of The Last Dance. So stay tuned if you guys want to.
Nice.
This we're in basketball mode. I'm rocking my customized Tony Gonzalez California jersey.
I was gonna point that out. Nice.
I see you.
I gotta show that. It's Tony Gonzalez, baby.
Yeah.
One of the
classic.
One of the besties. But
I'm just rocking my 49ers gear.
All right.
Of course, always rocking 49ers gear. It's the only clothes that you have in your house.
Gotta represent. My side.
Steven, Coach H, I just want to end with this quote from Michael Jordan himself about, people who were saying that, his baseball stint, he was atrocious, he was awful, he was stupid for playing baseball. Here's what MJ had to say about it. What I've done is give inspiration to people, believe in what you want to believe in, and don't give up before you even try. If you're given an opportunity to take advantage of something that you truly love, dream about it, go do it. That's Michael Jordan for you. And that is it for us over here at the Tailgate Tropa. Thank you again for hanging out. Coach H, Steven Silva, my main guy. Again, thank you so much to everyone who has been listening to us over here at Radyo Katipunan 87.9. Keep on following Coach H, of course, on shall we say, Liga na lang, Liga HD on Sky Cable channel 8.
I have a few things upcoming. If I may plug, the Coaches Academy of Got Skills. Their events have been canceled the past because of the coronavirus. I'll be interviewing Coach Norman Black. A lot of coaches. Of course, I need to go with the Ateneo guys, Coach Tom Baldwin, Coach Tropa. I think I'll be having an hour daily. We're still putting up the schedule, so hopefully you guys could chime in and listen in, especially the basketball coaches.
All right.
Nice. Where can we watch that, Coach? Where is that going to be
It will
showing?
be live stream on YouTube. I'll be sharing the link with both of you because you have more followers than me. You're more popular than me, so especially you, boy next door. So
Yeah, guys, please follow Coach M. Help him out. Oh, let's plug. What's your Twitter and Instagram, Coach?
Coach Hammer 613.
There
you go.
There it is.
There you go.
Coach Hammer 613. There you go.
Yeah.
Everyone,
You can
stay
follow
tuned.
me. I am Steven Silva on Twitter. And Anthony, you have to change your Twitter handle. It's so
What?
confusing.
It's A_Perez SF49 San Francisco 49 and SAS San Antonio Spurs.
It's so confusing. Why can't you just put Anthony Perez?
With a number.
Yes.
We'll leave it for next time. All right, guys. Thank you. Take
All
care.
right, guys. Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.
All right. Take care. See you guys next time.
See you guys.
Ingat, guys.
All right. All right, what is up again, basketball fans all across the Blue Eagle Nation? Welcome again to this Last Dance docu recap, only here on the Voice of the Blue Eagle, Radyo Katipunan 87.9. Of course, if you guys were listening to us, of the many people who were listening to us in our past episode, again, we thank you all for tuning into Selina and I as we broke down the highlights from episodes 5 and 6. So if you guys were listening last time, Selina's my honorary kid sister, whom I would routinely beat up on the basketball court. But that's another story for another day. Again, it's my basketball buddy Selina de Dios from the Ateneo Lady Eagles joining me on this recap episode for 7 and 8 of The Last Dance.
Thanks for having me again.
All right. So, Sel, the director of The Last Dance actually noted down that episodes 7 and 8 were his hands down favorite of the whole docu-series. In his words, he was able to hit a home run and knock it out of the park. See what I did there? The baseball meme. But I mean, Sel, comparing it to 5 and 6. Was 7 and 8 kind of in that same realm as you would grade it?
After every episode, I think, how can it possibly get better than this? And every episode after watching it, no, this has to be my favorite. And then I watch the next one. Okay, no, this has to be my favorite. But after watching 7 and 8, I think it really has stood out because it was a turning point out of all of the episodes I watched. That's the best way to put it. The turning point in Michael Jordan's character.
Sure. And this one, actually, these couple of episodes, we were able to go quite deeper into Michael's competitive fire. You got a glimpse of him, as the bully teammate that people are making him out to be. So, also in episode 8, we see his the long road back to basketball, coming from baseball. And again, Sel, I want to focus on that side. Jordan actually warned viewers that, you might see my unflattering side in this docu-series. You're not gonna see the smiling Air Jordan, the like Mike character, or him teaming up with Bugs Bunny. No, he was actually worried about what people would think of him if they were gonna see these, this ugly side of him, so to speak. But did it actually kind of change your perception of him, or were you already expecting, like, Mike is, he's a brash, brutal type of character, and in some respect
you could already see this coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think it did two things for me. Number one, it really humanized Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Because from episodes 1 to 6, you just saw him as this, like Mike, competitive goat, and then you see him. He has his insecurities of being seen as a tough guy, not a nice guy, but at the same time, I also saw the side of him that his teammates said, this brutal bully teammate. And I mean, it's hard to excuse that as an athlete who has been on teams. If he was my teammate, I feel like I would have crumbled. But again, you saw his motivation for it. He was just a competitor, and he was so passionate, and he wanted people to get on his level. So it really showed that he was in a different level.
For real, for real. And then us being San Antonio Spurs fans, we all know what kind of leaders could carry a team. We've seen Tim Duncan. He's the type of leader who would wrap his arms around his teammates, be a big brother to Manu and Tony Parker. But Michael Jordan's leadership style, if you could call it leadership, was iron fisted. I'm gonna lead you by fear. And when I was watching him do his trash talk routine in practice, calling out. I don't know, for some reason he kept on calling Scott Burrell by his full name. Hey, Scott Burrell. but anyways, it's so eerily similar to Kobe Bryant in that infamous practice where he was calling out everybody on the floor, right? And but this leadership style, so to speak. I mean, in your opinion, does it only work when you're in that 1% of greatness where you could command that type of, you bring that weight into the gym, into the practice facility? But if you're just a run of the mill all-star, you can't actually go about and boss your way around your team, right?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm torn. It works if you're that great. Is it right? It's unorthodox because you saw the way Scottie Pippen led his team. He was kind of like that Tim Duncan figure. He would pick up his teammates. He when you had a bad play, he'd just kind of pick you up and he'd whisper something in your ear to motivate you. I think it worked again because Michael, he I think he said something like, I didn't make you do anything that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people excused it, because they knew that he was demanding it because that was his level. But it's so difficult to demand something of someone because you can't really match. You don't know what effort level is. It's to each his own.
Exactly.
So did it work? Yes. Is it right? That's where I'm kind of stuck.
Same. Like I've always been torn about that. But could you say It's so hard to call it black and white. Like, oh, it's the right method. Oh, he could have done it this way and that. But could you say that it sort of provided the right yin yang balance to the team? And while everyone was looking out for inner peace and namaste with Phil Jackson's yoga and meditation, Michael's brash disciplinarian, I'm gonna pound on you every single day. Was that sort of what the team needed in terms of providing contrast and balance?
Maybe that good cop bad cop routine kind of worked for them. You're right, because you can't always just have those quiet leaders, those motivational nice leaders. You sometimes need a character like Michael Jordan. So I guess it was good that it was only him. Imagine if it was Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen who were harping on the guys every practice. They probably would have fallen apart.
Exactly. And I mean, probably the results speak for themselves because they won 6 out of 6. So it might have worked. But I mean, if you were in their sneakers, you wouldn't think you'd last a single practice with MJ beating up at you the whole time. But anyways, I think in a 2-3 minute span that really captured Michael Jordan's motivation for being so really harsh and brutal on his teammates. Why he led with an iron fist was that you know, uh, was that scene where he got so emotional that he was actually brought to tears just
Mm-hmm.
remembering, you know, um, how long it took him, you know, to get to his first finals and win his first championship. I mean, 7 years facing, you know, the Detroit Bad Boys and just going through all those rough years. You could tell that the intensity just came up at him again. You know, it was like he summoned all these memories while he was, you know, going back to that scene. And you know, for you, why did this particular topic just bring Michael Jordan to tears in a very rare scene that, you know, for a guy so intense, so competitive, you know, he got so emotional about it. And,
I think going back to what I said earlier, we really just see the human side of Michael Jordan. For all these years, these past few decades, I think he's just been putting up this strong competitive front. And up until now, when you know he gets to look back at his career, because you know how he actually sees the video snippets of what other players have to say about him, and I'm sure it just brought back a lot of memories. And I guess it was just the tipping point for him.
yeah.
You know, it's something that he's been hiding, and I think episode 7 was really where we saw Michael Jordan as an emotional person, an actual person who shed tears. You know, he was just like every one of us.
Right, and it's, you know, it's just so hard to fathom, you know, a guy who we see as this, you know, superhuman figure on the basketball court, you know, being brought to tears by, perhaps to me it was him just showing how much, you know, the thrill of competition meant to him, that he was actually, you know, once he enters that space where he remembers, oh, the intensity of it, how he has to push his teammates every single day. You know, it just overwhelms him to the point where there he just broke down, right? And I mean, probably you know, one of the most surprising surprising stories that, you know, we also got to revisit was the time when him and Steve Kerr actually got into a fist fight, and he gave Steve Kerr a black eye. And Selena, how could this be the best thing to happen to them when you give your teammate a black eye? It, you know, I don't know how is it reverse psychology or something? I mean,
I don't know if it's. I don't understand how punching back or hitting Michael back was the biggest sign of respect. That really confused me. I'm not sure if it was because of that time in the NBA where it was just like more rough and there's more aggression, and to stand up for yourself meant to fight back, which is why Michael Jordan saw it as, okay, no, this guy won't take anything from me.
okay.
But if that happened right now in any practice and you threw fists
Oh
or,
my
or
God.
even back and forth with words, you'd be kicked out of practice. That's not how we show respect.
I mean, if you you know, had an episode like that
Mhm.
in one of your training sessions, I mean, you would get kicked
Yeah.
out of the gym, you know,
Yeah.
right there and then. But I mean, with Steve Kerr learning how to fight back against Jordan, I'm you know, my understanding of it would be something like in the military where they would
Mhm.
test you and break your will
Mhm.
just to prepare you for any uncertainty that there is on the battlefield. Because you know, once you're out there in the battlefield, you would be faced with life-threatening situations from every single angle, and perhaps, you know, that was Mike's way of, you know,
Mhm.
testing if this teammate of mine in Game 7, the, you know, the last minute of Game 7, if he would fold under pressure, right? So I mean, probably it was sort of that kind of test, you
I
know?
think it was MJ's reasoning. That probably was his reasoning, that he wanted to prepare them for what they should expect in court. Because he was right. When he came back that season, those were the new guys, and they didn't really take part in the first two championships. They didn't know what MJ and the Bulls endured, and so for him, the best way to get them prepared is to berate them nonstop.
Exactly. It just reminds me of this scene in Jake Gyllenhaal's movie Jarhead when he was a recruit for the Marines, and the Marine drill sergeant he would recite these lines on a chalkboard, and the drill sergeant would be slapping the back of his head like, private, are you ready for your backpack? And it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
If you're cut out for this, then you wouldn't fall under pressure. But I don't know, Mike had his methods, and as they say, history favors the victor. So I mean, 6 championships. It's hard to argue again if that was the correct method to use. But
Sure.
I think Mike had the perfect quote for this, Selena. He in that particular interview he mentions winning has a price, leadership has a price. So I pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled, and I earned that right because my teammates came after me. They didn't endure all the things that I endured, and probably this bad cop approach was, I don't know, it was, it was justified, so to speak. Um, given everything that they experienced. But I mean, are we giving Michael Jordan enough credit for the sacrifice that he made? Like he really embraced that villain persona. He knew that my teammates are gonna loathe me, my teammates are gonna hate me, but at the end of the day, if it brings us closer to getting another championship, then this might be the only way I know. But hey, it works, right?
Yeah. I think it's hard. Michael Jordan was a competitor, and he had his unconventional methods to discipline and to lead. And it's also hard to say that he enjoyed being the bad cop. I don't think anyone really enjoys being the bully.
Right.
And I think that's also why he maybe teared up a bit because, going back, I guess I don't know if he regrets any of the decisions he made, but it probably is hard to kind of live with the fact that you were that guy, you were that teammate who people feared.
Right.
But again, he had his motivations for it. But it was probably hard internally for him to stomach that. At what price? Yes, winning has a price, but what price is that? And I guess he had to live with the fact that he wasn't seen as a nice guy.
So this is where we see that winning isn't actually the cure-all for everything, right? There are still things left unsaid where maybe that's his struggle. Like to this day, fine, he's the basketball deity. He's Michael Jordan, but in terms of character issues with teammates, being the best leader out there, that's a totally debatable topic altogether, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know, can I ask, what, you being a veteran hooper, what is Selena de Dios' leadership style?
Definitely not that.
Okay, just to be clear.
I think I'm more of a Scottie Pippen in the sense that just pick them up, motivate from the motivate calmly. But I'm definitely MJ in the sense that I won't make you do something that I don't do, because I think that's the best way to lead.
But not to the point of harassing them or
No.
nothing like that. Okay. And Sel, I think another highlight that we could take from 7 and 8 was how the opponent's disrespect would just earn the ire of Michael Jordan. He would use it as motivation to fuel his fire. You could see it. BJ Armstrong talking smack, former teammate. I don't give a damn. George Karl not looking at him in the restaurant. Gary Payton and the Sonics. Gary Payton, by the way, Sel. He is, I think Charles Barkley mentioned it, he is one of the best trash talkers ever in NBA history. And they were talking about it with Shaq on TNT, and Shaq was like, what makes Gary Payton such an effective trash talker is he's just like that off the court as well. Like when you see Gary Payton in the mall, for example, Gary Payton would tell Shaq, remember the time big fella went across you up like that? And then he would be like that. And you could tell that Michael Jordan he loved it when guys talk smack to him. He loved it, right? And like if you remember the LeBradford Smith story when he mentioned, "Oh, nice game, Mike."
Yeah.
I did some research on this, and the LeBradford Smith story, it was actually something that Mike fabricated in his head. just to, get him an additional piece of motivation.
Mhm.
Because everyone was, people were asking if Mike, did LeBradford Smith say anything at all to you? Actually, he said, no, I just made it all up. The nerve of him to
Yeah.
think about something, just to tick him off, just to,
Mhm.
if he was at 99%, that one thing would kick him off to 100. Then he would go full throttle, right? That was his thing. And I, I gotta ask you, what gets you riled up, like before a big game? What gets you, that extra juice, that extra motivation?
I think it's the opposite of trash talking that
Really?
gets to me. It's when, because for me, trash talking. Okay, do you know when you know that you're getting on someone's nerve when they kind of like ignore you? Because
Uh-huh.
when you fight with someone and they answer back, you're getting exactly what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want. But when they stay silent and they rise above it, that's what irks me. Like when
Uh,
they when they're like the bigger person, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, then I gotta tone it down, and I have to be the bigger person now. That's what
okay.
fuels me. It's
Okay.
like the
Okay.
opposite, reverse psychology.
Okay. The deafening silence, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's what gets you.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right. But I mean, have you ever tried talking smack to an opponent?
Oh no,
On
never,
the court?
never,
Really? At all?
never.
Not even like, you didn't bring your A game today, nothing like that?
No, no, I can't.
Really?
I don't know,
It's
maybe
just
I'm too nice on the court, or but the moment I even like think of opening my mouth, I just kind of like clench my fists and just relax, calm down.
well, I don't know. I wouldn't go as hard as, like, looking back at my own experiences playing football and rugby.
Mhm.
Like I wouldn't go as far as critiquing his game, but
Mhm.
my opponent's game. But I would say something like, "Guys weren't as fast today, huh?" Like something like that. Just in
Yeah,
passing, just to
yeah, for
sort of
sure.
rub in the salt in the wound. But I don't know. My Mike was a totally different guy. Like, you could tell MJ, he won the psychological battle against
Hmm.
opponents even before the game started,
Hmm.
right? And there was this one story, Selina. I just want to share this with you. Byron Scott, one of Magic Johnson's teammates back in the Lakers. So Byron Scott was on the tail end of his career, was playing
Hmm.
for the Vancouver Grizzlies, and so the Bulls were visiting the Grizzlies, and Byron Scott was, he in an interview was saying he really, really enjoyed guarding Mike because his number one rule was never get Mike pissed off, right? If he made a shot, you'd say, "Nice shot, Mike. Good job." Kill him with kindness, so to speak. So, Michael Jordan, uh, you know, talks to Byron Scott during a shoot around, and he says, "Yo, B Scott, I heard you're not playing tonight." So Byron says, "I'm sorry, Mike. I sprained my ankle." And so Mike goes, Byron Scott, and says, "Oh, so who's going to be guarding me tonight?" Then Byron Scott says, "Oh, we got a rookie. His name's Anthony Peeler from Missouri." And then Mike goes, 50. He just laughs him off. And then Byron Scott tells the rookie Anthony Peeler, "You know what? Just be cool. He's probably gonna go for 50." And true enough, MJ ends up with 54 that game. And I mean, just to have that bravado, right? You just take it to the face of your opponent and
Hmm.
say what you were gonna do even
Oh
before the
yeah.
game started was something. I don't know. It just reflected supreme confidence.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know.
A lot of athletes can talk the talk, but when it comes to putting it
There you
into
go.
action, only MJ can do something like that.
There you go. There you go. And and also, to add to that, Chris Webber, again, one of the analysts now on TNT.
Hmm.
He remembers when he was still playing for the Washington Bullets. So they get off the team bus, and Michael's there in his Ferrari. He parks it right there in the players' parking lot, and he's smoking a cigar, right?
Hmm.
Smoking his Cuban, and he asks the Washington Bullets, who just got off their team bus, "So who's guarding me tonight?" And the whole Chris Webber says the whole team points to poor Albert Cheney, and he's like, I don't know, there's nothing. They were just pointing at me. And just the intimidation that he brought, even before tip off, that was totally something else to just step back and say, dude, this guy's a stone cold killer. He's a cold blooded criminal. And it I don't know. This Mike's competitive fire, him trying to make everything so darn personal to be fully engaged. Does it remind you of any athlete now? Right?
Honestly, it's hard to say.
Right?
It's. I mean, going back to those episodes when they were talking about that Space Jam segment where he'd shoot for 12 hours and then he'd go play practice games, pick up games, and he'd still treat it like a regular season game or even like a playoff game. I mean, for someone to do that 24/7 must get so tiring.
I mean, that's
never have an off switch for your competition.
That was gasoline to his fuel tank, right? I mean, it pumped him up even more. And I think that's something. I don't know if you agree with me, but that sort of intense, unquenchable fire, so to speak, that's something kind of lacking in today's NBA, where everyone's dapping up each other before the game, just shooting texts to each other. Everyone's so just buddy with each other, right? I mean, that was that era of Mike being just so darn competitive all the time. That's sort of a lost art. You know what I mean? In today's NBA, do you see that too?
Yeah, definitely. I think it just speaks about how sensitive things have become as the generations kind of pass, and now because athletes are, they're more than just athletes; they're kind of like global icons. So those rivalries, those aggressive moments, when those brawls, they don't really happen as much. And I think it's because I think maybe fans don't expect that. They might not even buy into that anymore. Whereas before, those sold out arenas, those great rivalries, sold out arenas. Whereas now it's really the talents, I think, more than the teams.
That's why I'm going to beat you in backyard 1-on-1, because you're part of the generation who's sort of sensitive and soft. No, just kidding. Anyway, also, Sel, what The Last Dance also shows is, it shows the gravity that MJ creates, the media frenzy, the circus that everywhere he goes, it just follows. It's just like a ripple that keeps on extending. And again, this is one of the most controversial life topics that MJ faced. The media circulated rumor that gambling was the sole reason for his father's murder, his father's death, and his consequent move to baseball. Now, I want to ask you what your personal take is on this, Sel, because I don't know if are people just trying to force the narrative just because you can connect some dots. It automatically suggests this story is exactly the reasoning behind this unfortunate event happening, or is this more of when people can't believe something, they're finding it hard to wrap their heads around something that's so out of the ordinary, then we tend to believe conspiracies like this. I want to ask you what your personal take is on his father, the death and everything.
I mean, journalism is very tough. We both know that there are a lot of ethical lines that are crossed when it comes to reporting, and But I think in that case, when I saw it, I was really disturbed. For anyone to lose a parent is tough, but for the media to swarm and say it was your fault for it, your gambling inadvertently caused that. I think even if there was some truth, even if you believe there was some truth to it, which I really doubt, I think the least anyone could do is just let the guy mourn.
Right.
And I think more than the reasoning behind it, whether people were just fabricating stories for more clicks, for more views, or they believe that there was actually some sort of truth to it, regardless of your motivation behind that, I really think the media attention should have died down. But again, it's hard, when you were Michael Jordan, you were a mammoth figure. and
Exactly.
you can't really escape that, and it's hard to say, dial down the coverage,
Mm,
but to come up with a story like that, this is very disturbing.
sure, sure. And probably, my thinking would be something like maybe Michael didn't want his family to be further embroiled in controversy because he
Mm-hmm.
was at the peak of his powers,
Oh,
coming off
sure.
a repeat MVP, scoring title, being like Mike and everything. Probably, basketball was becoming too big of a distraction at that point, where he
Mm-hmm.
felt like, I couldn't play my best anymore because it's all about my gambling now, my dad's death, and everything else that's going on around me. So probably was it? I don't know. This was in the '90s where
Mm-hmm.
mental health and being in touch with
Sure, sure.
your inner sanctity was
Mm-hmm.
inner sanity. Sorry, sanity was something not really out in public discussion. But was this, you think, him stepping away from something that meant so much to him was sort of a mental health protective move, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you kind of recount all of everything that was happening, then he became under fire for his gambling, and then his father just died. It's a lot. It's a lot for anyone to take, and I think definitely before mental health became a big thing, that was his way of saying, oh no, I need time for myself.
Right, right. And it was that's why it was so unprecedented you know, to get it from him.
Mm-hmm.
For him to start something, it was utter chaos. Him just,
Sure.
stepping back from basketball and ironically, him going into baseball created a bigger media circus because right, Sports Illustrated came out with a huge cover that said, "Oh, bag it, Michael. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't gonna do you anything." But again, Selena, if you remember our conversation last week, we actually said that Michael Jordan actually turned himself into a solid baseball player,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, listen, for many fans of baseball, for many players of baseball, it just takes years for athletes to reach the major league level of
Mm-hmm.
baseball because baseball is sorted out into tiers. So Michael was playing double A, which is like third highest from the majors, and people saw it as an insult that, hey, who's this basketball player at 31 thinking he could just waltz his way into the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's baseball, they say, out of all the North American sports, it is one of the hardest sports to master
Mm-hmm.
just because it's so technically and
Sure.
form demanding. You can take an average athlete, make him shoot a jump
Mm-hmm.
shot. He could do it. If you take a guy who runs pretty fast, make him run routes on the football field, yeah, he can, right? As long as he got a quarterback to pass to him. But hitting a baseball, that's
Yeah.
like you could take even LeBron James, the best athlete right now in the NBA. It would take him all day to hit a baseball,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was a move probably like Jerry Reinsdorf, him being the owner of the Chicago White Sox too, and the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, like getting a person by the name of Michael Jordan would be great for business, right? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you wouldn't deny something, a star of his name, going to your clubhouse and creating ticket sales for you. And by the way, the Birmingham Barons really loved it. They were Imagine this. It just showed you the gravity that Michael Jordan had. Sell out crowds at home and the
Yeah.
road. MJ making them use the luxury bus, right? It was a media frenzy, you know, all over again. And but here's the thing though, Selena. Michael Jordan didn't see himself as the star of that baseball team. He
Mm-hmm.
was, he practiced hard. He practiced swinging a bat hours and hours before and after training. So my take would be, if you look into this, if that sudden retirement was what it was said to be, like a hush hush about his gambling problem that led to his
Mm-hmm.
father's murder, or the NBA trying to keep him quiet,
Mm-hmm.
why would Michael Jordan subject himself to all the media criticism of switching to an entirely different sport,
Mm-hmm.
relearning everything because he didn't touch a bat since he was 18 years old, why then would he take up an entirely different sport and work so hard for it, work so hard at it for the reason of honoring his dad? Like, you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't be so
Yeah.
serious at mastering a sport with the intent of, hey, I want to, make my dad proud. But if at the back of your mind you're just, oh, I'm doing this, hide myself from all the controversy and everything like that, right? It just
Yeah.
doesn't. It just
It doesn't
doesn't
add
follow.
up. I think if anything, it kind of hushes those rumors that he needed to lay low because of everything happening. Then you're right. If that were the case, he wouldn't. He just kind of stay at home and just not show himself to the outside world. But it kind of shows a different motivation for it. And you were saying how a lot of people said he wouldn't get anything out of it, and I think that's because they assumed he wanted another superstar career as the way he did in NBA, as the way he had in the NBA. But I think what he did get out of it was that sort of break, and it refueled his competitive fire, especially after losing his dad, who we later find out was his biggest motivator, and for him to kind of reconnect with his dad through baseball. I think that's what he was really looking to get out of it.
Right. And actually, Sel, MJ was on the verge of making the major leagues, right? And by the time he got into the Arizona Fall League, he was averaging .252 at the plate. So by the fall of 1994, for a guy who's 31 playing basketball, he was an average hitter in the minor leagues. Not the best, but at least he was pretty solid, right? And consider this: 31 years old, no professional baseball experience, but with that athleticism, with that insane competitive drive, like, would you think that if there wasn't any, because 1994 Major League Baseball had a player strike, so Michael Jordan didn't want to become a replacement player. He didn't want to get paid that sort of money, so that ended up with him returning to basketball. But would you think, this is your personal take on it, would you think that if MJ decided, was given more time to swing a bat and go at it, that he would eventually land in the majors?
I think he would have still ended up back in basketball.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think he just needed that kind of 1 year, 1.5 year stint to just get it out of his system, to answer that what if, to get connected with his dad. But he knew that basketball was really his calling.
He was made for basketball, right?
Oh yeah.
That was, and thank God that he did return to basketball. But Sel, I got a good quote from MJ about his stint, in baseball, and people describing it as, oh, Michael Jordan was flat out atrocious in baseball. He absolutely sucked at it, but actually he proved them wrong. But if there's anything that MJ's career has pointed out to us, is he's all about shutting down any argument that you can't do it. Right? You can't win the scoring title in the championship. He did it 6 times. You can't win with flu-like symptoms. He did it. He came out. You can't come out of retirement after playing baseball. No, I can do that, and I'm gonna lead my team to another repeat. And here's what he said. So, this was back in 1995. What I've done is give inspiration to people, believe in what you believe in, and don't give up before you even try. If you're given an opportunity to take advantage of something you truly love and dream about, go do it. How true does this resonate to your experience in sports?
I think it speaks waves to any athlete, especially the underdog athletes. But if you really want something, I think he was just saying, just work for it. If you want it, yes, go get it, but it's not gonna come without hard work. And I think more than what that quote shows is that he really, transitioning from basketball to baseball, he reshaped everything about himself. His mentality, his athleticism, his build. He really put in the hours to get there. But I think before getting there, he needed to set his mind to a place where he knew himself that he could do it.
Sure. What's another sport that you were really into before you specialized in hoops, or something that you participated in growing up?
I as a kid, I was kind of active, so I did a lot of the sports. But if I could have pursued anything, I kind of wish I continued swimming.
Swimming, really?
Yeah.
But they say swimming is a good form of cross training for
It
basketball.
is. It really is. It's a
You say
whole
that?
body workout. It tests your endurance, everything. That's why I wish I continued it because it was cross of it. But if my mom watches this, she's gonna look at me and say, "I told you so." Because before I used to hate swimming. She's like, "No, you gotta push through it." I did, but I chose basketball in the end. But I wish it was something I continued, even leisurely.
Funny to think how Selina would have ended up on the Ateneo swimming team rather than the basketball team. And maybe in another time in another space. But swimming, I didn't know that you were actually were you competing like seriously in swimming?
Well, I actually used to live in Australia, and swimming there was big.
It is.
And so I was competing competitively at like my grade school level. But even at the grade school level, the kids were, they're athletic. Australians are athletic,
They
so
are.
it was a good level of competition.
Okay.
Eventually, when I moved here, I still continued it through high school, but then kind of my freshman year, I was like, I should stick to one, especially if I want to pursue it in college. So that's when I kind of dropped my other sports and stuck to basketball.
Okay. But I mean, basketball turned out well for you, so
Oh yeah.
diba? No regrets about it. But again, MJ, that return from baseball, all those doubts, all those worries about him, those were put to rest by just two words on a fax machine message. I'm back. Do you
Yeah.
even know, Selena, what a fax machine is in your generation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. At least I'm not that old.
I know it. Do I know how to use it? No, but I know
Okay.
it. I know what it is.
At least you do. At least you do. But still, for all those again, critiquing MJ's infamous return back to basketball, he returned in the midseason of 1995 as number 45. And think about this: after swinging a bat for a year and a half, he was still averaging 27 points, five
Yeah.
rebounds, and five assists. He drops 55 points in the Madison Square Garden game versus John Starks and the New York Knicks, punishing defense in just his fifth game back. I mean, who does this, right? If that isn't a proof of Michael Jordan's rare athletic ability, then I don't know what is, right?
Exactly. I mean, his first game back, I think he scored 19, and to him that was a bad night. But to a lot of the other players, that's an average night. That's a fairly average night. And for him to do that and then come back 4 games later in Madison Square Garden to score 55, which is like, oh, he just needed to shake off a bit of the rust. But other than that, he's where he used to be.
And I think one of the best ways that MJ, because they lost, if you remember our story last week where he lost in the playoffs to the Orlando Magic and Shaq and Penny Hardaway.
Yes.
So summer of 1995, during the shooting of Space Jam, they had this Warner Brothers built a tent for them with the gym, with the court. And remember when we were talking about the Dream Team scrimmages? Like the scrimmages inside that Warner Brothers tent was actually pretty intense. I mean, you had Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman, Reggie Miller, all of those all stars, playing with Michael Jordan. And looking back, some players were actually saying they regretted those tune-up sessions with MJ because they felt that they only helped make MJ better.
Yeah.
I mean, because by the time that the Bulls kicked in their revenge tour of 1996, MJ won the MVP, the scoring title, the 72-10 season, won the championship, won Finals MVP. So that might have had to do play the part with him re-emerging again as the best basketball player out there. But still, like, can you even try to put together how a guy coming from retirement, playing a totally different sport, and then using again that loss, that early playoff exit in 1995, to retransform himself again and prove to everyone that he's the best basketball player on the best basketball team in town again, right? It's just another way of MJ shutting down any doubts about him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think more than his physical capabilities, he showed off his mental toughness. I think that's the best way to put it. You know, the transition through those periods, and then to be able to switch it on. Well, then again, he never really switches off his competitiveness, but to keep going and to keep proving everyone that he was back, it really speaks waves about the kind of mentality that he had.
Right. And Selena, I think you know what really stood out as MJ's ultimate redemption was the 1996 Father's Day Championship versus the Supersonics. You know, that was MJ's fourth title, and you know he just said it like, this is for Dad. This win is for Dad, and he was sobbing on the floor of the locker room. And doesn't that scene, you know, just show how much him returning to the game, you know, meant for him, right? And him just rediscovering his passion for basketball after, you know, a year and a half of being away, after again going through that media frenzy, that media circus of, you know, his family being embroiled in this, you know, this scandal of his father's murder. Like, doesn't this show the, you know, MJ's just burning passion for the game and what it really meant to him, right?
Yeah, I think when he transitioned to baseball, he really wanted to reconnect with his dad. But then he realized that it was really playing basketball that he had that relationship, because they mentioned that there's iconic photo where MJ was hugging the trophy and his dad was right beside him. And I think every time he gets a picture with the championship trophy, his dad's always there. And it's the first time that, you know, he got to hug the trophy, but his dad wasn't there anymore. And I think, if anything, that kind of just brought back all the memories, brought back the motivation, and brought back that passion and drive that he knew it was only right for him to stay in that sport that he grew so much with.
Right. What's the biggest game that you, or the biggest trophy that you won that, you know, that you credited mom and dad for and your family support for, you know, this championship or something like that? Was there ever a game like that for you?
Actually, it's funny. In my 4-year career in high school, I in our major tournament for basketball, we always came second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we always came second. We were always in the finals, but we always came second. But funnily enough, my second year, silver trophy. That was, even though we didn't walk away with the gold trophy, I felt like I contributed more to that silver medal, and because it was with my parents. So I think that's what I, you know, because they really pushed me that year, that transition from my freshman to sophomore year.
Okay, that was your
That's the one
ultimate tribute.
You
Okay.
know, it's still a silver medal, but I felt like I contributed a little more to that silver medal.
This is the IS leagues, like with ISM, BSM, and.
Oh no, this is the IS league with international schools.
I see. Okay. What's the league called again?
IASAS. It's with other international schools in like Singapore, Malaysia.
Oh,
so
okay.
we travel, yeah.
Okay, overseas.
Yes.
Okay. But again, coming in always second, but that you know that second year silver finish was something really special. Okay. Okay. But let me ask you this, Sel. 1996, MJ and the Bulls set the record for what was then the highest win total in a season, 72-10. They win the NBA championship on Father's Day, Michael Jordan's fourth title. What is the greater, or what would you consider the the single season winningest team of all time? The 1996 Chicago Bulls or the 2017 Golden State Warriors that finished 73-9 but lost to the infamous blocked by LeBron James with the rejection of Iguodala team? Okay, what, again, knowing what you know, coming from your generation, what would stand as the single season best team in NBA history?
For me, definitely the 1996 Chicago Bulls.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
She said the right answer.
Not only because they walked away with the championship, which, I mean, I feel like their season, the Golden State Warriors season, should kind of be discredited because they didn't even get the championship trophy. But also knowing the level of competition and the caliber of the teams back then, if you were to put the Golden State Warrior team in the 1996 league,
Mm.
no brainer. The Bulls would have still swept.
That's
Swept
coming
the
from a
Warriors.
Gen Z girl, people. She said it. She has spoken the truth about it. So, but you agree, 1996
Mhm.
Bulls
For sure.
still the greatest single season team,
For sure.
single
I think
season
so.
winning. Okay, okay. I'm glad that you said the correct answer. You get 10 points for that. But anyway, um, before we end, Sel, here's one more story. There's always these lots of stories that I really have fun
It's okay.
sharing.
They're very informative. I learned so much.
This is what I do in my spare time. I like listen to all these um, underground stories about the NBA and Jordan, and even for football as well. But anyway, it's story time with Kuya Anthony. But here we go. So 1996 Bulls Revenge Tour. That summer again, MJ does the Space Jam pickup runs. He's hell bent on proving to everyone that I'm still the best player. The Chicago Bulls are still my team, and we're gonna win. We're gonna redeem ourselves. But in 1996, there's this guy by the name of Jerry Stackhouse. He's a high-flying, scoring swingman from North Carolina, familiar university,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're the starting shooting guard for North Carolina, and you got all the dunks, you got the scoring ability,
Mhm.
you know who you'd be compared to, right, Sel?
For sure.
All right. So Jerry Stackhouse is actually the 11th of 12 children. So he had this fight, this dog in him, right? If you're, imagine this, 12 kids. The moment you set up the dinner table, if you're not there, you're not eating at all. So so Jerry Stackhouse had this dog in him. He had this fight in him. So he would get into fist fights with opponents and teammates. And teammates, I tell you. And Jerry Stackhouse was so notorious for this. So in one of his interviews, like he was being asked, "Oh, why did you go ahead and get into a fist fight with that opponent of yours?" Quote, he said he needed to bleed. That was how tough Jerry Stackhouse was. So he was ready to take on for any kind of smoke that there was, right?
Mhm.
So summer of 1995, North Carolina opens up their gym for alumni players. So it's open runs. Anyone can go against anyone. So if you're a former Tar Heel, you could play with current Tar Heels. So after the playoff defeat at the hands of the Orlando Magic, Michael Jordan decides to participate in these open runs at the Chapel Hill Gymnasium. He's rounding himself back into shape. He's shaking up the rust, and then Jerry Stackhouse claims that he beat Michael Jordan so bad in these 5-on-5 scrimmages that he beat Michael Jordan so bad in one-on-ones, and Jerry Stackhouse also bragged to the media about it, that he beat Michael Jordan so bad in these pickup games. So fast forward to the off season of 1996, MJ was being interviewed about these North Carolina runs, and he was saying to the media, "No, I don't want to make it personal," which means I'm coming for your head, Jerry Stackhouse. So 1996, Jerry Stackhouse is drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. Right. This was the year that they, I think, before they got Allen Iverson. So this was pre-Iverson, and Stackhouse is having a great rookie season, but he's averaging almost 20 a game. But the Sixers are still struggling to get wins. So the Bulls are sitting on a 29-3 record. MJ is averaging 30. He's leading the MVP race. He's back to his old self, right? This is the Bulls revenge tour. But nothing can stop Stackhouse and MJ from colliding again. Like it was meant to happen. It was meant to happen for them to meet each other again. So it's the Bulls visiting the 76ers in Philadelphia. And Stackhouse has a teammate by the name of Vernon Maxwell who played with Hakeem Olajuwon when Michael Jordan was away, so they won the championships in Houston.
Okay.
And Vernon Maxwell is so vocal about him hating on Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. So Vernon Maxwell goes to the media and says, "To hell with Jordan, to hell with Pippen. I am so sick of hearing from them. The Bulls wouldn't stand a chance against Olajuwon and the Rockets." That's what he says. So all of this, it's being circulated again in the media. Stackhouse bragging to the media about him beating MJ, Vernon Maxwell going at Jordan and Pippen. So by the time the Bulls and the Sixers face, MJ has 15 points by the end of the first quarter, 28 at the end of the half. MJ checks out in the third quarter with 48 points, 10 rebounds, 64% field goal shooting. To make matters worse, that was the game where MJ scores his 23,000th point, if that's how you say it, 23,000 point. So at that point, the people in the Sixers arena were actually cheering for Jordan in their own gym instead of Stackhouse and Vernon Maxwell. And Stackhouse and Maxwell combined to shoot 5 for 19 from the field, and the Sixers lose by 27 points at home. So, did you think it ends there? Actually, no. So, years later, MJ returns as a Washington Wizard, right? So, 2002, and Jerry Stackhouse is playing for the Washington Wizards as well. And during practice, they say MJ would sing classic R&B songs to get into Jerry Stackhouse's head just to mess him up in practice, just for fun. He would sing Anita Baker to his ears just to mess him up in practice, just to get his flow off rhythm, and that was it. MJ just wouldn't stop, harping on Jerry Stackhouse about what he said to him back in 1996, and some dudes just never learn. They just never learn.
Moral of the story: never talk trash. Never.
No, not to the best player who laced up sneakers ever. Right. But watching these Last Dance series and everything, have you ever encountered MJ stories of that nature, like him trash talking? And have you ever sort of dug up a story about it, or
No, again, because I was kind of born late in his career. I mean, I was never familiar with him more than him being a great athlete.
Okay.
I never really heard much of the trash talking or the rivalries. It was just I would watch highlight reels and just see how skilled he was. But other than that, this is really the first time I'm seeing the behind the scenes.
Right. So I mean, at least I'm helping out the
For
generation,
sure.
the current generation about this with these MJ stories of mine. You game for one more, or you want to wrap this up?
No, one more is fine.
All right, one more story. So, the stories I've been telling you are about guys who take the trash talk to MJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that MJ actually brought the trash talk one time to another player, even when he was still a rookie? So, okay, this is 1984, but MJ, all right, the trash talk that MJ does isn't a personal attack, sort of what Kevin Garnett does. He doesn't humiliate you as a person. But okay, so 1984, MJ gets drafted by the Chicago Bulls, right? But the leading scorer of the Chicago Bulls back then was a guy by the name of Reggie Theus. So he's this. If you're familiar with the name, Selina, Reggie Theus was the coach of Cal State Northridge, the school where Kobe Paras transferred to.
Oh, okay.
Right? So Reggie Theus is traded by the 1984 Bulls to the Sacramento Kings to make room to draft Jordan. And Reggie Theus is unhappy. He says, no rookie can ever replace me as the leading scorer of the Chicago Bulls. So 84 season kicks in. A rookie MJ, so Bulls and Kings are going to play. So a rookie MJ tells his fellow North Carolina alumnus, Kenny Smith of TNT, right? He tells Kenny, just tell Reggie I'm going to get 45 tonight. While he's in the locker room getting ready for the game, Selina, 23-year-old Michael Jordan ends up with 43 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, 4 blocks, and to top it all off, MJ goes back into the locker room and yells at Reggie Theus, I didn't get 45, but wait till you come to Chicago. Selina, does it end there?
Probably not.
Probably not. Because, I'm not kidding you, I am not making this stuff up. Michael Jordan repeatedly burned Reggie Fils for the rest of his NBA career. In the 19 times that they faced, since that day, in his rookie year, 19 times they faced over the next 5 seasons from 87 to 1991 until Reggie Fils retired from the NBA. Michael Jordan dropped 40 points per game on Reggie Fils' head in 19 meetings. In the final matchup that Michael Jordan and Reggie Fils go head to head, Fils is now with the New Jersey Nets. The Chicago Bulls blow out the Nets 128 to 94, and Michael Jordan gives Reggie Fils a goodbye gift of 41 points. That's how savage this beast is. Seriously.
I wish I had that superpower where I could just be like, okay, I feel like dropping 50 points today, and then boom, I do it. But
that was him.
only Michael Jordan could do that.
That was him. And why did I tell you these stories? Because Sale 9 and 10, they're gonna come up next week. It's gonna be a bittersweet finale for us because it's gonna be our last dance recap. And this is gonna be exciting. It's MJ's really tough battle with the 1998 Indiana Pacers. Boy, whew, these guys actually almost pushed the Chicago Bulls to elimination, right? And we know MJ's trash talking exploits, but wait till you see Reggie Miller, the ultimate foil to Spike Lee at the Madison Square Garden versus the Knicks. Reggie Miller is, he's famous for doing the choke sign to Spike Lee, and this guy lived for the theatrics of trash talking. He absolutely, thrived as being called the villain in Madison Square Garden in New York City, and we're gonna see why he was the perfect, the perfect antagonist to MJ in the 90s. And for you, what are you most looking forward to in 9 and 10?
I think I'm excited to see more of that rivalry and more of the trash talking behind the old generation of NBA. Because again, I'm super unfamiliar with it, but some of these stories really show me what kind of players they were, just physically and mentally tough to be able to withstand all of that.
That's what we're going to see. And I think a teammate of yours would be very much excited to see her Pacers in the episodes 9 and 10. I'm talking about Angel Gino, who's who's from Indiana. So I think she's really pumped up about this. Maybe we could get her on it and talk about her Pacers too. But anyway, Sal, I think that's enough for me. I've shared enough MJ stories, and I really appreciate you coming on the program again, and for sharing your insights about MJ and whatever things that we could take away from this docuseries.
Next week I'll try to come with my own story.
All right.
I'll see if I can come up with a story that you haven't heard before, but I think that's gonna be hard.
I'd love to hear that. All right. You got your resources. You're a Gen Z girl. You got your stuff going on.
Yeah.
But anyways, again, thank you so much, Sel, and thank you to everyone who's been tuning into us. We super appreciate all the 4K plus views last time we talked about it. So again, that's gonna be it for me and my buddy over here, Sel, for our last dance recap. Again, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Selina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again for having me.
And it's going to see you again next week.
Yes.
And it's going to be our last dance finale recap. So, again, thank you so much, everyone. And Sel, take care. Peace. We'll see you again. All right.
Thank you.
With the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo.